Hey everybody, I'm here at the Boston Harbor Distillery and I'm about to go in and meet up with Katherine, who's going to take us on a little tour of the distillery. Hey Katherine.
Hey Bill, how are you?
Hey, nice to see you.
You too.
So what do you got for us today?
Got a lot of good whiskey for you.
All right, so we're going to go over to the map room because Katherine here is going to teach us a little bit about the history of Boston Harbor Distillery.
Come on in.
All right.
So welcome to our lovely map room. We'd like to start off any tour of Boston Harbor Distillery here to let you all know where you are right now. So basically, Boston Harbor Distillery is located on what's called the port on Boston Harbor. We're currently in the Dorchester neighborhood of Boston, Massachusetts, and it's the southernmost harbor of the city of Boston. Now, we like to just point out one map in particular, seeing as we're in the map room. This one right here shows Boston in 1773. Now, the reason I point out this one is because it shows Back Bay and Fenway when it actually was a bay. So if you look right up there, it's just a body of water, it's a bay. So we like to point that one out because it's just a fun little piece of history that makes Boston truly Boston. The building that we're in right now was actually built in 1859, and it's really one of the last hidden gems in the city, as we like to call it, because everywhere in the city right now is being very, very developed, and a lot of new buildings are popping up, but right here, it was built in 1859, and there was so much amazing history coming out of this space. And as an entrepreneur, our CEO and founder really wanted to tie that all together with everything that we make. We just wanted the history of Boston to really be embedded in everything that we do here. So all the products that we're going to talk about today, there's a true story behind them, and it's very quintessentially Boston. When I was talking about the history of this building, it dates back to 1859, like I said, and the first entrepreneur to be in this building was called Silas Putnam. And he actually automated the process of the hop forged horseshoe nail, which I know doesn't sound super exciting to us now, but back then, horses were actually the main mode of transportation. So what he did was really revolutionary, and he actually supplied both sides of the Civil War with his horseshoe nails that he made right here in this building. And another little fun fact that I find cool, but a lot of people tend to think I'm a nerd for finding this exciting, Silas Putnam actually created the retractable curtain rod that you see on shower curtains, window curtains. Supposedly he created that right here in this building as well. So just a little fun fact. But we thought it best to name our flagship brand, which is whiskey, after the first entrepreneur who was in our building. And our CEO, Rhonda, just always loved the imagery of horses and whiskey. And before we really got into the history of the building and our research, she was like, how am I going to connect these two together? How can I tie horses and whiskey and have it make sense? And sure enough, right under our noses, Silas Putnam was in this building making horseshoe nails. So that is why we call our whiskey Putnam New England whiskey. So we talked a little bit about the history of the building, but let's talk a little bit about the history of the business itself. So we were founded in 2012 by Rhonda Kallman. Now, if that name is ringing some bells for people, it's because she was actually the co-founder of Samuel Adams, otherwise known as the Boston Beer Company, with Jim Koch back in the 80s. Now, when they were starting Boston Beer Company, it was really an ingredients story, and they were trying to use bold grains to get a different type of flavor. And Rhonda's bringing that same passion here to Boston Harbor Distillery by using bold grains and something creative with every single product that we do. So let's go over here and we can talk about one of our most innovative product lines right here. This is called the Spirit of Boston. Now this speaks to her history with Sam Adams, but it does it in a new innovative way that really puts a whiskey kick to the product. So our Spirit of Boston is distilled Sam Adams beers, and they are all 84 proof because Sam Adams was founded in 1984. Each one is extremely different from the next, and we just love the way that the distillation process really enhances any spices, grains, hops that they used in the beer. So we're not adding whiskey to the beer, we're not aging beer in whiskey barrels, we are literally distilling beer and turning it into a whiskey-like spirit.
All right, so before we get into any of the whiskeys, I know you guys make some spirits, and after you told me about them, I actually really wanted to try them. So what do we have here?
So this is a Spirit of Boston wine, and this is distilled Sam Adams beer varieties. So basically each one is going to be very different in taste from the next. So that's why it's really great to try them in a row like you're about to do, just to see how truly unique they are to each other.
Okay. So where are we going to start?
So let's start with the Ella Blanc IPL. This is my personal favorite, actually, out of all of them. It's very light, and I will let you decipher the rest after you taste it.
Sounds good.
And again, these are all 84 proof.
84 proof. Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. That's good to know.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay. So obviously smells a bit florally. You said it's IPL?
Yes.
So that makes sense. All right. So let's go ahead and try it. So herbaceous, I believe is the right word.
Yes.
Not herbally, which is where my brain first went. So the flowery tones come through pretty strong, but there's also kind of an herby. It's a very much a drying sensation on the tongue. I like this one a lot. It's a unique character. So how come this isn't whiskey?
So the reason why we can't actually put whiskey on the label for the Spirit of Boston is because there's hops in it.
Okay. Because this was made from beer.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So hops right here. Because of this, unfortunately, we can't write whiskey on the label, even though it drinks very similar to a whiskey.
Yeah, it really does actually.
Right.
I like that one.
Yeah,
Good start.
delicious.
All right, so what's next?
So let's go to the double black lager next.
Okay.
We actually have the beer bottle here. This is what the original beer bottle looked like.
Okay, so you guys are actually making all of these from produced Sam Adams beers.
Yeah, they make it and then they send it here finished, ready to drink.
Okay.
And then Marco distills it twice.
Okay.
And then they do get aged for a bit in some of our used barrels because they're not a real whiskey like we said, so they don't have to go into brand new barrels. So we can get around that little loophole right there.
Okay, so what are we getting into here? What is like what would you say are some of the characteristics of this whiskey?
Sure. So this one's a bit more malty in my eyes. It's not going to be florally or botanical like the first one. This one reminds me more of a classic whiskey taste.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a nice middle ground between the three.
Definitely has a much more mild nose, kind of a little bit of sweetness on the nose, but I think malty is a good way to describe it. So.
Yeah.
Actually, kind of, you're right. It tastes like I'm drinking a lager that was turned into a whiskey.
And that is exactly what you were drinking.
So actually, that tastes very much like a lot of characteristics of just a general American whiskey.
Right.
There's a little bit of it's almost like not a rye spice per se, but it's got something going on. Having trouble describing this. So if you think about the blackened, guys, just for those of you that have had it, there's some characteristics in here that remind me of that, as well as some of the old new riff. There's some of the bourbon notes are reflective in here as well, just to give you guys an idea what this tastes like. That's really good.
Yeah.
I like that one a lot. Yeah.
There's a lot of layers to these, like I said. You know, it's hard to exactly put your finger on what you're tasting.
Totally. Awesome. So what's next?
So we're gonna finish with the Merrymaker Gingerbread Stout.
Okay, Merrymaker Gingerbread Stout.
Yes, very fitting for this time of year. This is their holiday beer that Sam Adams makes.
That's great. I'm gonna get a B-roll of this bottle just so you guys see it. That's pretty awesome.
Yes, so this one's gonna be a lot more spicy, very, very flavorful. I love this one. You can make some really cool cocktails with it as well. Yeah, immediately just on a nose, there's like, lets you know what you're getting into. You can get some of those Christmassy notes a little bit. It's yeah, that smells pretty good. Little gingerbread. And again, reflected in the taste. Yeah, I would say like nutmeg. There's something going on there. It's almost like a clove or like a coriander or something like that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Even a little bit of citrus sometimes people get in this. Just a hint of it.
Actually, yeah, I can see what you're talking about there. Yeah, like a little lemon. Not so much an orange for me, at least, but definitely more of a lemony. Awesome. Well, those are really good.
Yeah, they're very unique. Very, very unique. So.
Yeah, I love that you guys are taking made beer and then turning it into a spirit, which that must be really annoying that you can't call it whiskey, but whatever.
Well, you know what? We just took that, and that's how we came up with the name Spirit of Boston.
That makes sense.
That's where that name came from, actually.
Okay.
So we made the best of it.
Yeah, that works out well.
So let's head into the barrel room. So welcome. This is our barrel room where we have about 200 barrels aging right now. and a little bit of a backstory to this actual room. So I mentioned that this distillery is filled with a lot of local history. And the last business to be in here before it was Boston Harbor Distillery was Seymour's Ice Cream Factory. Now, when they were renovating this building and the space, it was very dilapidated when they first got it. So there was about a 10-year gap between Seymour's and us. So they found that in these floors and in some of the walls, there was actually about a foot of cork underneath the floors, because this used to be the freezer for Seymour's Ice Cream Factory. So that actually helps us out quite a bit in terms of insulation and keeping track of the temperature in here. So basically, 1 week it'll be a little bit colder, another week it'll be a little bit warmer, and it's not a perfect science or a perfect schedule that Marco follows. Marco's our head distiller. But basically, we just think that helps speed up the aging process a bit, because temperature certainly has a big effect on aging, as you all know. So like I said, this is where we keep all of our barrels. It's aged harbor side, we like to say. This is right in the same building that you saw out there before. And we use a few different sources for our barrels. We're really trying to experiment, see what works best for us, and what cooperage we like better than the other. So it's all a learning process. But we actually do have one that I would love for you to sample if you'd like.
That sounds good to me.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, so we're here with Marco, the head distiller, and he's going to take us into this barrel of rye that we've got sitting here. So Marco, how long have you been a distiller?
Just about 5 years now.
Just about 5 years? Nice. And you've been here the whole time?
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. So tell me a little bit about this rye that we're going to taste.
So this rye is about 2.5 years old. It's a high rye, so 95% rye, 5% malt and barley. And we use a mixture of American white oak back here. These are Minnesota white oak barrels with a number 4 char.
So was there any particular reason that you picked Minnesota white oak?
We tried a few different barrels back here, actually, from different regions of the country. And we found that Minnesota and South Carolina oak are kind of a flavor profile that we need.
Okay, that's actually really insightful. I've heard a few different things, and it seems like distillers tend to gravitate towards different things that'll make their whiskey taste good. So that's cool. So what ABV is? By all means, get into it.
Oh, yeah.
So what ABV are we dealing with here?
So this is about 123 proof.
Okay.
So generally, we like to put our barrels in around 120, maybe even a little bit lower than that.
Okay.
But we had a pretty hot summer, so a lot of the barrels have gone up in proof.
So I noticed that you have a glass pipette there, or I think you said earlier we call it a thief, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to him earlier. So why do you choose glass over copper?
There's nothing wrong with copper. We just use glass because it's easier to clean out, honestly.
Yeah, makes sense. You guys are doing things for utility, not necessarily for show. You might as well be,
Right.
easy on yourself. All right, cool. Well, I am dying to get into this. So, cheers.
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 All right. That is really good.
So much flavor.
Yeah. So you said what, 123, I think? Yeah.
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah. I like it. This is one thing that I've noticed with ryes, especially kind of like high ABV ryes, is that the rye spice versus the ABV, sometimes they can kind of fight, and sometimes it's almost like arguing over whether it wants to be way too spicy or way too high ABV. But I think that in this case, that it's working really well together, where it actually tastes smooth. Like this could get you in a lot of trouble, I think. But I like this a lot. So how long has this been aging?
Roughly 2.5 years.
2.5 years. Okay, so that's really cool. Now, do you tend to do a lot of rye, or?
Yeah, rye is probably what we spend a lot of our time bottling.
Mm-hmm.
We sell it as a straight rye.
Okay.
So 2 years minimum.
Nice. Now, what other kinds of whiskeys do you have aging in here?
So we have an American single malt that we actually just released. It's a bottled in bond variation. I'd like to try some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go over there. Nice. We did have to just go get this from kind of the back of the warehouse, so we moved locations. I wanted to show off this charred barrel here. I think it's just really cool. So what are we drinking right now?
This is our American single malt. It's about 4.5 years old. And our mash bill is 100% malted barley, but we do use a pretty sizable amount of chocolate malt.
Okay, nice. I always love chocolate malt. So, all right. I'm sure it's just because it's the chocolate malt, but that is extremely reminiscent of the Glenmorangie Signet, which is impressive to say because that's like a $200 bottle. So that's awesome. And maybe it's right out of the barrel that kind of helps. But
yeah,
wow.
This is also about 125 proof.
Okay, 125. So heck yeah. Cheers.
Exactly. Cheers.
Chocolate malt is very potent, so you really don't have to use a lot of it to get its effect on the flavor.
That one's good.
Just love the way it smells.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, you get that.
It's very malty for sure, but it's that's hot. I like that. I bet that'd be good with actually. I almost never put water in my whiskey, but I think that would actually benefit from this. But in general, that's just a really good flavor. It still holds up to the ABV.
We actually do sell it at 100 proof.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we add a little
Probably
bit of
good
water
shot.
to it, not much.
Probably a good call. Yeah.
Yeah, this is actually the first whiskey we ever started to distill.
Really? Wow. Kind of.
Yeah, actually, this barrel it's probably the first one we ever made.
Really?
First or second barrel that we made.
I feel honored. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so Marco, can we go check out the whole distillery area and check out what you actually do?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So this is our mash tun up here. It's a 560 gallon jacketed mash tun. So basically this is where we start the entire whiskey making process. So what we do is we add 1,500 pounds of grain by hand, dump it into the hatch there, mix it up with the forks on the inside of the mash tun, and we steep it in water. Basically 153 degrees is kind of the sweet spot for our mash bill we've found over the years. So once all of the starches are taken out of the grain, we can start transferring it into the fermentation tanks here. So to take the temperature of that mash down from 153 Fahrenheit to 80, which is kind of the ideal temperature for our yeast, we'll run it through this giant wort chiller over here. So this is just basically a cooling unit. Hot mash passes through one of these tubes here, which is surrounded by another tube that's filled with cold water. That takes the temperature down as we're filtering it through the false bottom in the mash tun. So we do an off the grain fermentation. So then we'll transfer all that liquid into the fermentation tanks here. We'll add yeast. Generally, it's about a 48-hour fermentation, maybe a little bit longer than that. Then when we're done, we're left with our distiller's beer. That's generally about 8 to 10% alcohol. And then we can transfer it into the still over here. So our still is actually a hybrid hot column. So we can get a lot of different flavors out of it, do a lot of different things with it. So 150 gallons made by Vendome Copper and Brass Works in Louisville, Kentucky. So all of our first distillation runs are made in a hot still mode. So our stripping runs, we'll just throw the fermented product into the still, boil that off, collect all the alcohol that comes off. We're not making any cuts at that point. We'll run it down to generally about 30 proof. Then we'll throw all of that back into the still, turn all of those little plates on there, and then we'll run it as a column still for the final distillation run. So that's where we make our heads, hearts, and tails cuts. So generally we're throwing away about 25 to 30% of everything that comes off the still, which means the heads, the hearts, and the tails. So all of the stills in the country are registered with the TTB. That's the government agency that enforces distillery regulation, and our still number just happened to be 1776.
So now that we've tried stuff out of the barrel and I've kind of showed you guys the way that this stuff is made, let's try some of it bottled. So what would you like to do first? Do you want to do the rye or do you want to do the single malt first?
I'd say let's go with the first whiskey we ever made, which is the single malt.
Okay.
So our Putnam New England single malt, and by the way, we love having New England right there on the label because we're putting a stake in the ground for New England whiskey. You know, this is grain to glass right here. Marco just walked you through it. So this is our Putnam New England whiskey. It's our single malt. Marco, you want to tell them the mash and the proof, just to remind it?
Sure. So it's 100% malted barley. A little bit of that is actually chocolate malt. So generally we're shooting for 20-25% chocolate malt.
Okay.
And we bottle it at 100 proof.
Thank you. Well, I gotta say, I liked the giant pipette that you were using back there a lot more than the pourer, but this
You did
is
get
fine.
a little bigger pour.
Yeah, I guess this is fine.
Hey, you want boil top? Yeah.
Yes. So I could smell it from way down here. Thank you. All right, so it's still got the smell of the chocolate malt that we got right out of the barrel. So I would say that's pretty much identical to the way it was back there. But let me go ahead and taste this. You know, this is totally an accident, and I'm happy about it. So the glass is still warm because it only just came out of the dishwasher, and it's warm. It's warmed up. Actually, no, I like it. It's warmed up the whiskey a little bit. And sometimes I don't know about you guys, but like sometimes warmer whiskey, I find it easier to actually get flavors out of. I don't know. It's almost is like fresher.
Yeah.
You know, like
I can see what you mean.
yeah. So
No, I actually like drinking this with a couple drops of warm water in there.
okay. Yeah, I could totally see that. So
Definitely opens it up a little bit when you do that. Yeah.
So I ended up talking instead of talking about what it tasted like. So yeah, so that it just tastes very, very smooth. You said this is 100?
100 proof.
Okay.
50%.
Yeah, you would never know. I mean, it's very, very smooth, and I love the color on this. It's very good. Very dark. How old is this?
So these are just about over 4 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say.
Close to 4 years old, actually.
Okay. And obviously no caramel coloring, anything like that.
No,
Yeah.
no.
So
Just number 4 char in the barrel.
heck yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
And you guys saw the barrel earlier, so that was same char on the barrel that we were standing in front of. Yeah.
So that one was used, and there was still a lot of char left on it, so you can really tell how serious the number 4 char is.
That's great. It gives a great flavor to this. I love the coffee malt. It really comes out in it. Let's go into the rye though, because I even in the room over there, I was trying to decide whether I like the single malt or the rye more, straight out of the barrel. So I'm curious to see how they do in bottles too.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the rye, this is going to be 86 proof now.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
86 proof, and again, cut in New England whiskey.
Mhm.
The top yours off a little bit more than I learned last time.
Well, you know, it just looks better on camera. It has
Yeah,
nothing to
yeah,
do with
yeah.
you know
Thank
my
you.
how much I like to drink at all. So thank you.
Maybe just a little bit.
Just a
but, you know.
little. All right, so the smell on this is a little bit more muted than it was out of the barrel, which obviously makes a lot of sense. Although I'm surprised at how well this one held up out of the barrel, but still smells like a rye. So. That's really, really good. It's still very good. Although I would. So do you guys do the rye in like a higher proof version ever? Do you do like a single barrel or a barrel strength or anything?
Yeah, we actually have those for sale right now.
Okay.
This current batch that we're selling is 123 proof. But we have sold individual barrels to buyers in the past, and we let them pick whatever proof they want. Most of them keep it at cask strength, though.
I would imagine you would.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we have the single barrel, and then we also have the bottled and bond version of the single malt, which you tried, which again, 100 proof. That's why we do that, so they can get bottled and bond.
Okay. So despite my propensity towards higher ABV stuff, the taste in here is actually very, very good. It's a sweeter rye than some other ones. Like whereas a lot of times rye can be way too spice forward and it just kind of is overpowering. Similar to in the barrel, where I assumed that it was the high ABV versus the rye kind of getting along well together. Even at a lower ABV, it's still kind of sweet, but it's got the rye spice to it a little bit as well. So pretty well balanced actually.
Yeah, that's a really common feedback that we get because a lot of people tend to be a little bit hesitant of ryes just because they can be overly hot and spicy like that. But yeah, most common feedback is that you get a lot of those bakery notes, caramel, vanilla,
Nice.
complexity.
I like them both. I'm not sure that I can really choose one over the other because they're just so drastically different. Do you guys have anything like? What are you working on? What kind of new stuff are you doing?
Right now, we're actually doing a wine barrel finish for our rye whiskey. So it's a Cabernet Franc
Okay.
barrel finish.
Now, was there anything about that particular wine that made you choose that?
We tried a few different wines, actually. Luckily, we have a winery right next door, the Boston Winery.
I did
so-
see that when I was like, man, I should head over there too.
and they make all different varieties of wine. So
Yeah.
luckily, we can just roll a few barrels across the parking lot whenever we need them.
Has that literally happened? Because
I use the forklift, but
okay.
sometimes we roll.
That's awesome. I love that. Awesome.
If you're up for it though,
What?
I do have something unique.
Okay. I like
Do you want
unique.
to try something spicy?
I like like rye or
It's a spicy whiskey,
spicy whiskey.
but not cinnamon.
Okay. All right.
You up for it?
What do you got? Demon Seed.
Yes.
Okay.
Demon Seed.
What is this?
So this is a scorpion pepper flavored
Okay.
rye whiskey
Okay.
with fresh ginger and maple syrup.
Okay. Well, you guys know I don't usually do flavored whiskeys, but I'm not going to say no. and those of you that watch the lives know I love really spicy food. So
Right.
yes.
Okay.
Short answer is very yes.
Perfect.
So,
So I will pour these. Marco,
Okay.
do you want to tell them a little bit about what it was like to make this whiskey?
Sure. So it was a lot of tweaking involved with the level of spice. We didn't want to go too overboard, but we also didn't want it to be tame. So we were using basically whole scorpion peppers,
Okay.
steeping them in unaged rye whiskey for a couple of weeks, and then we came up with the blend from there.
thank you.
Definitely want to wear gloves when you're handling the product.
Oh yeah.
Not when you're drinking it, just when you're making it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So now, do I shoot this or do I sip?
I would shoot it.
You shoot it? Okay.
It's
Shoot
lower proof, so
Yeah,
you want it
little
to be a little
flavors.
shooter.
Yeah.
All right. Well, sounds fun. All right.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Woo. Wow, that hits you right away, and keeps building.
It builds. It builds. Yeah.
Oh, that's really good. It's kind of like, is that like a malty flavor, or like a almost like a young rye, maybe, or there's something like, what is below the scorpion?
So we also use fresh ginger in there,
Okay.
and
yes.
real Vermont maple syrup.
Oh wow.
To sweeten it
Okay.
up and kind of cool down the burn.
Okay.
But yeah, the unaged rye, I feel like I can taste the unaged rye in there still.
There's
Just
a lot
little
going
bit
on.
of something, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot to take in.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That's So do you guys sell this? Obviously you sell it, but like, do you sell it? Where can people get your stuff?
Yeah. So basically, we are distributed all throughout New England.
Okay.
But these distillery only releases, like the Demon Seed, the bottled and bond version of the single malt, that's all inside the distillery.
Okay.
So that's going to be Monday through Thursday,
Mhm.
10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay.
Just, bottle and mercantile sales. We're a production space. Marco's back there making everything.
Yeah.
But then Friday through Sunday, we do tours. We love having people come down and, show them what it's like to do the production here, take them into the barrel room. So yeah, Fridays 3 to 8, and then Saturday, Sunday 1 to 6. People can come down. They can buy the distillery only release products, and they can meet us and have a cocktail and hang out.
Awesome. Well, I gotta say, I'm gonna be tasting that Demon Seed like all day long. And I'm glad we did that one last.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, cool. So I'm gonna put some information down in the description if any of you guys are interested in trying to get your hands on this. Sounds like the best way is come into the distillery, which is not hard. I'll put the address down in the description as well. But thank you very much for letting me come by and do this whole thing. This was really awesome, and thank you for your knowledge.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Awesome. Well, I'll see you guys on the next one.
Thanks
Cheers.
for watching.
See ya.